The Illinois cop who staged his own death tried to have somebody kill an administrator who was reviewing his finances. Hired a hitman, or tried to. That's according to the Lake County Sheriff's Office. This story gets worse by the hour. Yesterday, we heard investigators say Lieutenant Joseph Glenowitz killed himself in September and tried to make it look like somebody murdered him. They said he'd spent years stealing thousands and thousands of dollars from his department's youth program, and that records show he used money on his mortgage, his gym memberships, and even adult websites. Investigators say all of that was about to come to light, and that's why they believe Glenowitz staged his death. Even going so far, we now know, as to radio in a description of imaginary suspects before he shot himself. Well, today it got disgusting. Today we learned from investigators that the lieutenant tried to get a gang member to put a hit on the administrator who'd been going over his funds because he was worried he'd discover that he was stealing. The spokesman also says investigators found packets of cocaine in the now dead officer's desk. And he said that there are text messages that show the now dead lieutenant talked about planting something on the administrator, but that it's not clear if that's why he had the coke. On top of all of this, the Associated Press now cites an official who says the lieutenant's wife, seen here, and one of her own sons are under investigation, apparently in connection with the embezzling accusations. The wife's name is Melody. She supposedly helped her husband run the youth program, which was meant for aspiring police officers. We've reached out to the family's attorneys. So far, understandably, no response. Let's bring in a lawyer. Dan Schorr is a former prosecutor who specializes in cases including homicides. There are text messages, according to these investigators, between family members about all of this. It sounds as if, according to the investigators, the wife knew.
Right. The messages are about putting money into a bank account where money had been taken out because he said if it's not put back in, I might go to jail.
That's
referring
to the
himself. Right. And there are others clearly covering up a crime. So there are some common elements here from other financial frauds. One is that he was in a position of trust. People revered him. He was seen in the community as a great guy. So no one double-checked the finances of the organization. And second of all, you had a new village administrator come in and then audit everybody. Sometimes that happens when you have a new person says, I'm going to look at the finances, and then that went really bad for him, obviously.
Well, here's one thing that makes no sense. Granted, everything's coming out now, it appears. But these officers were on with us yesterday. Respect them. They say they didn't know until the last couple of weeks about this. We reported on September 16th from multiple sources with identical stories of what was going on here. And yet they tell us they didn't know anything when we knew from multiple sources something isn't right.
Well, you don't know how information was given out within the police department.
But I know we got it nice and easy with great specificity. And they claim they didn't have it for a month after we got it.
Well, that is really strange, and I'm sure that's going to be asked because it's not just his family that's under investigation. The whole department will be looked at to see who knew what, and not only who knew what, but who should have known other things, who should have been looking at the finances here, who else was involved with this Youth Explorer program, and who was talking with him about what he was doing. He was a very active texter. There were thousands of text messages that he deleted, but the FBI was able to recover. They show some of this crime. Who else was he communicating with? That's information that's really important.
Well, the ruse apparently continued post-mortem as the wife was giving these heartfelt speeches about all the things that he'd done for the community, as were others in the police department, and now the inevitable question, who knew what and when?
Well, investigators are suggesting that the wife and the son were involved, if that's true.
But anything beyond that? We don't have any way to know yet.
But if that's true, of course, once he died, they're not going to then admit that they were part of this. So they went along with the fact that he died in the line of duty. And now, of course, it's coming out that he killed himself. He tried to make it look like he was murdered by people that he reported were in the area.
And think of the narrative that came out of that from so many places about it's the fault of the Black Lives Matter movement and all of this stuff that was just, it really turned up the rhetoric, and it really was factually wrong.
Right, and one of the lessons of this story is you have to really sift through all the information and wait for it to come in and not jump to big conclusions and make giant conclusions based on a little bit of information. We have to find out all the facts first.
Don't get ahead of the news.
Right.
It'll run you over.
Right.
Dan Schorr, nice to see you. Thank you.